Hi, and welcome to Thor's Day Comics. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. There's a pre-order link in the show notes below where you can pre-order that book and the new softcover edition of Jack Kirby. So now we're up to Thor number 117, and we're looking at large, high-quality reproductions of the original art for that issue from IDW's Jack Kirby's Thor Artist Edition. Into the blaze of battle. By sheer trickery, the evil Loki has managed to return to Asgard seconds ahead of Thor, thus winning the awesome trial of the gods, as we showed you in Thor 116, Stan. Regally written by Stan Lee, dazzlingly drawn by Jack Kirby, invincibly inked by Vince Colletta, lonesomely lettered by Artie Simek. Poor Artie Simek, you need a fall guy for your humor, and so that ends up being the letterer. Great opening splash, all this sort of negative space, and the huge Thor figure emerging from this dimensional barrier, and then on the right is most of the sort of detail and business. It's a really interesting layout. I like it. And so we're like 4 or 5 issues into the ongoing soap opera. And so one story's bleeding into the next. So the trial of the gods sort of concluded with Loki cheating his way to the barrier before Thor. And then it's like, what's going to happen when they come through that barrier? And now we're going to find out. And up at the top, written in the margin, it says Vietnam, because this is the Vietnam issue of Thor. So they've emerged. Loki, your victory is a fraud. Those enchanted stones you carry won the trial for you. You know it, Thor, and so do I, but no one else shall ever know. Now, that's the final script, presumably written by Stan Lee, and in the margins we have Jack Kirby's margin notes, and Thor is saying, "You rat! You rat! The enchanted stones in the bag you carry helped you survive." And then the word journey is written on in Conti crayon, something I can't really see what that says. "I've won. That's what counts. That bag will prove you didn't stick to the rules. It will if anyone finds it." Loki gestures. So that's Kirby's margin notes, and then the final draft of the dialogue is, "Just wait, all of Asgard shall know when I show them your bag. They'll see that you won by defying the rules of the trial. What are you doing? What are those mystic gestures you make? Can't you guess I'm merely seeing to it that you can never tell I cheated during the trial? I'm sending the evidence far out of your reach. There, it is done." Thor can't contain himself any longer. He sucker punches Loki and is threatening him, and then the Imperial Guard show up. They go before Odin, and here's Jack's liner notes. "What Thor accuses me of is a lie." "Oh yeah? If I remember right, you had his girl beset by Executioner and the Enchantress. And I'm gonna give Thor a chance to prove the rest is true. If it isn't, I'll pass sentence on him." Jack's margin notes, they as far as I know, they were intended as instructions to give to Stan to help Stan write the final dialogue. I don't think Jack ever assumed that this was going to be printed as the final dialogue. Thor saying, "You rat," instead of "your victory is a fraud." But I do like the directness of Jack's writing here, and there is a clarity that is sometimes lost in Stan's more florid prose. Again, the final version is such a signature of the series, but that keeping the soap opera going, referring to like all the things that have been happening so far, and we're no closer to a resolution. It just continues onward, and so and takes you from here to there, and so Odin is giving Thor 24 hours to prove his case. He's going to find that bag of stones, the evidence, the habeas corpus. And so he has to go to Earth to find it, because that's where Loki sent it to. He took the bag and threw it to some random spot on Earth, and Thor has no idea where it is. Meanwhile, the fight is continuing from the previous issue, where Balder, in sort of his Earth clothes, his detective outfit, is fighting it out with the executioner, and then the enchantress is holding Jane Foster captive. The fight continues. She uses her magic to drop a big sign on them, on Balder. And now Thor's here. The executioner and the enchantress know they're outgunned, and Thor's just so pissed that they know discretion is the better part of valor. As it says in the margin notes, villainous tosses girl at Balder to delay him, and they catch up, and Thor sees that Jane Foster's in good hands, and he's got the ticking clock again, ratcheting up the stakes of the drama. And so he's got to take off and find those stones. If Loki's stones are on Earth, the hammer will something of their location. The hammer is beginning to react. I feel a tingle. The hammer and the Norn stones have like a mystic Asgardian resonance that they can sort of, tune in on each other like a tuning fork. And so he follows them. And finally, at a communist lookout point in the Viet Cong area of Vietnam, unidentified object flying over our lines, all anti-aircraft batteries, open fire. So now this is sort of, the winning formula for Thor. You do some like fantasy stuff off in Asgard, off in like Asgard space or whatever. And then you shake things up by coming to Earth and doing some more, ripped from the headlines kind of stuff. And then you go back and you kind of, mix and match the two. So the reader never gets a chance to be bored. What type of missile is it, comrade? It looks more like no, it cannot be. No matter what it is, our shells shall bring it down. And we've seen these kind of sort of Cold War stories in like the earliest issues of Thor and Journey into Mystery. So this one feels like a bit of a throwback. The fact that it's Vietnam makes it feel a little more contemporary. When we think of like the fiction, like the movies and comics and things of World War II, that's a certain, there's certain associations with that and certain kind of tone to it. And then when we think of like the movies and things associated, and even, some of the comics, some of like the 70s, black and white war comics, when we think of, but like, cinema in particular, when we think of Vietnam, it's a very different thing, think of movies like Apocalypse Now and Platoon. It's a very different style. You can almost picture if they made like a Marvel movie, a Marvel movie adaptation of this. Thor goes to Vietnam in the 60s. You'd hear like the Doors playing or something. This is the end. The Rolling Stones paint it black or something. Or Jefferson Airplane, one pill makes you larger. They're calling each other comrade and stuff. So it's still, cut from that sort of Cold War cloth. This is a pre anti-war movement depiction of the Vietnam War. It's being depicted the same way the earlier Thor ones we've learned more about, and the contemporary anti-war movement of this time, which, Stan and Jack, as far as I know, were not part of at this time. But even if Stan and Jack had, more like a more nuanced understanding or appraisal of the situation, which I don't know that they did. I don't believe that they did, at least not at this time. But even if they did, within the confines of the comics code, they probably couldn't get too sophisticated with it. So they present it as like a very simplistic Cold War narrative. Again, the politics of it are ill-informed. It's the storytelling is much better than the earlier, Thor sort of Cold War stories, just because, Jack and Stan have just grown as storytellers, and it's got like a little more room to breathe. And as simplistic as it is, there still is a subtlety to it that was not present in those earlier stories. He's in the underbrush. He's being shot at. Swings his hammer. He's getting hit. It's Thor's hammer versus the artillery of the Viet Cong infantrymen, as it says here. And then, he's knocked unconscious. This stuff is, Thor again. He's a one-man army. He's like, he's OMAC here, and then he wakes up in the home of a Vietnamese family. I see helicopters on patrol searching for the hidden guerrillas, but they are so few, and the communist foe is so many and so cunning. So again, these helicopters going by, I'm picturing like the opening of Apocalypse Now. Then, before Thor can decide upon his next move, fate itself points the way. My Uru hammer tingles in my hand. The stones I seek are somewhere near. Thor's sort of, fantasy journey and the trial of the gods has led him to the, more grounded, more earth-based, more, pulled from the headlines. Thor's making his way through the underbrush, but again, a big cape and shoulders and stuff is, flared out, shoulders on his shirt and a helmet with wings. It's not the best way of making your way through dense jungle underbrush. So he turns himself into Blake, who can kind of, work his way through there a little bit easier, get in between things. Loki's watching the whole thing with the Norn queen, and he's loving every minute of it, pouring himself a nice drink in his flagon. And Loki, as Queen of the Norns, I have come to reclaim my magic stones. Soon, my lovely one, soon. I am using them as bait to destroy the one I despise. So Loki is hoping that Thor is going to continue to follow those Norn stones and follow them to his death. I mean, he already got knocked for a loop by, some artillery. He gets taunted by the Norn queen. He, throws his flagon at her, but then he sort of laughs. And, he's a moody, mercurial guy going through a whole range of emotions. And he continues to watch on his crystal ball. And yes, now he sees it's all coming to fruition. They grab him, and then they take him to the comrade commander. He will know what to do with the Yankee dog. They're tying him up using his cane as a stick. Now speak, Yankee swine, who sent you? What is your mission? I am a doctor. I want only to help the suffering villagers. Have you not seen this phenomenon? Our camera's got this shape. Is it a Yankee? And so he's showing him a picture of Thor that they have, and he's asking him about it. And bring in the hostages. If the American does not talk, they will die. Here is the latest batch of hostages, comrade. It was known that they sheltered the unknown flying man, the family that helped me when I was Thor. I can't let harm come to them. It has come to this, my own family defying the might of the communist Viet Cong. And so you find out that that family that helped Thor is his family. Don Blake takes advantage of the family drama. I've got to make a run for it. It's now or never. He runs around the corner. He's being shot at. Pretty exciting sequence. And then throws himself on the ground to make his cane strike, which turns him into Thor. He's got his hammer. Then he finds out this is a huge weapons depot. There's what he's been looking for. The Norn stones. The packet rests atop that cache of artillery shells. It is no mere coincidence. Evil Loki planned it this way. He meant for me to enter fighting. For if those shells were to explode all at once, even my great strength might not save me from annihilation. The family drama continues. You are no longer my brother. You have betrayed your family, your people, by serving the Red Terrorists. And this angers him. He starts shooting his gun, and he shoots his brother, but he also shoots his mother. Mother, speak to me, mother. It is hopeless. I shall never hear her voice again. Kim, my sister, come back. Kim, help, help. He is a murderer. My own brother, help. That cry from within the tunnel. It is the girl, Kim. I must go to her. If she is in danger, only Thor can save her. And so he goes into battle, hammer swinging, knocks everybody back like 10 pins, in the sort of Kirby fashion. He makes his way through, this series of widescreen panels. Save me, save me. Do not let him shoot me as he did the others. The general is face to face with Thor. No place on earth will hide you from me. For I shall return, and when I do, the hammer of Thor shall be heard in every village, in every home, in every heart throughout this tortured land. You need not fear that I shall try to escape. The knowledge of what I have done shall keep me a prisoner for all the days of my life. He leaves, there is but one thing remaining for me to do. I have brought death to my family and dishonor to my name, but I shall face my fate like a soldier. It was communism that made me what I am, that shaped me into a brutal, unthinking instrument of destruction. To communism, then, may it vanish from the face of the earth and the memory of mankind. The ammunition, it's been blown up. The entire installation is destroyed. Husak is dead, little Kim, but it is as I expected. He died a man. The epic tale you have just read is but a prelude to the still greater one which awaits you next issue. So, till we meet again, may the stars of Asgard shine on thee. And so, yeah, it becomes a lecture. I don't know what Jack's margin notes say, if this was, this speech about communism seems, like a Stan kind of thing, but who knows. But in any event, just the drama as it plays out, it's like an interesting family drama. And as you can see, this little preview of the next issue, it picks up right where it left off. Thor's Vietnam adventure continues. And, this time, I think this whole story, great material for a remake, especially like a remake, just sort of knowing what we know about the Vietnam War and incorporating elements of Vietnam War cinema into it. It could be like a pretty cool story. This ongoing soap opera adventure, one of the big things we associate with, Marvel superhero comics, it's still going. It's going and going and going. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. There's a pre-order link in the show notes below where you can pre-order I Am Stan and the paperback edition of Jack Kirby. I'll see you next Thursday.